Good morning, good morning. Welcome to Vicky 3 Academy, and here we are discussing prestige and country rank. So this is going to be a special video, just trying to help everyone understand the consequences of prestige, where it comes from, what you can do with it, and how it influences the growth and status of your nation. So, prestige is this special calculation here that does determine your rank, but it comes from a lot of different things. So that prestige, because of the way that this is calculated, I think is generally speaking going to be the best representation of the overall strength of your country. There are some other really good ones like your GDP or the size of your construction sector or the size of your budget that are also great metrics in terms of the overall strength of your country. But those will only measure the strength of your country and not the strength of your empire. And so they can themselves be a little misleading, especially in like multiplayer or whatever, whenever people are actually like really throwing weight around. And so that's why I think that prestige is just a really clever, neat little way to describe country strength. So it comes from the country tier. This is something that's just like fixed. It's kind of nonsensical. It's mostly flavor. It'll help you if you're really, really, really weak, like Siam or whatever. It'll help you get a little bit of extra prestige so you can puppet stronger countries. But it's mostly going to be coming from gross domestic product and gross domestic product of subjects as your country gets bigger. But in the beginning of the game, you're going to be getting a lot of it from your own army and navy power, and then some from the subjects. Maybe you have romanticism, but you also have this leading goods producer. So if you are one of the top producers in a specific good, then you'll get a little prestige boost there too. See, we get some prestige from being the number one producer of engines, some prestige from being the number 2 producer of sulfur, some from being the number 3 producer of clothes. And so don't think that in order to benefit from specializing your economy, you have to be the number 1 producer in the world. You don't. As major and especially minor powers, I encourage people to be very clever when it comes to taking these positions. Because if you can become like the number 3 producer of fine art as Sweden, you can immediately start puppeting Denmark. And so that's not even like unique to Sweden. If you are anywhere in the world and you can find a way to get a little bit of extra prestige, like +5, +10, +15 from being the 3rd or 4th producer of a good, that might push you up a country rank, and that's really a big deal. So we've discussed where it comes from, which is just like the size and strength of your empire and your economy. But I can show you in the Vicky Wiki the actual way that rank is calculated. So here we go. So rank benefit. The first thing they try to tell you is the rank benefit, but the first thing that I want to tell you is the prestige requirement here. This is why I think prestige is so important even throughout the game, even after you become a great power, because of the way that the prestige requirement works. It has to be 5 times the global average, or within 75% of the highest prestige. And what that means is, in a game of Victoria 3, if you manage to just like remove from the map all of the really, really, really low prestige countries, like Tripolitania or Tunis or whatever, the average prestige is going to go up, right? Because the fewer countries there are with like 10 prestige running around, the higher that prestige requirement is going to become. And then, of course, if you're also just building your own prestige into infinity, then you're going to find at some point in the game that you're going to knock some of these backwards powers off the map of being great powers, right? If Austria and Russia cannot successfully liberalize, their economies will slip further and further and further behind everybody else. And you'll find that by like the 1880s or the 1890s, even without fighting them or even playing like a world conquest super optimally, that at least one of them is probably going to drop off from being a great power down to a major power. Why does that matter? Well, I mentioned it, but it determines who you can puppet. So as a great power, you can always puppet major powers. As a great power, you can basically puppet anyone except for great powers and other unrecognized major powers. Unrecognized major powers are currently unpuppetable, I believe, because they want to encourage people to not be able to puppet Qing without, beating the crap out of them first. And I think that makes sense. I don't mind not being able to puppet Qing or being able to puppet Japan on pause. I think that would be pretty game breaking. But then even if you're not a great power, if you're just like a major power, you can puppet minors and insignificant powers and unrecognized regional powers. That's a big increase in terms of the size of the market that you can staple to yourself, right? And that is the goal here. When you're puppeting people, you're taking all of their demand and you're just slapping it onto yourself. So like if we wanted to puppet Persia as Great Britain, literally all we would need there would be an interest in, oh hey, we already have an interest in the Persia region. So then all we would need is a puppet here, and then maybe we would fight Oman and Makran. That, whatever, like I don't care. And what that does for you, of course, is by adding the Persian market to our own, not only do we get access to all of their demand and all of their resources, and they in turn get access to all of ours, we get to take the entire country for an incredibly low amount of infamy, 46.5, versus going through and just like conquering every single state is going to be a lot. And I mean a lot more. Of course, that doesn't, by puppeting them, that does not necessarily add these states to your own country, but you can always follow up by doing an annex subject on them later. And so you can see how that would actually ultimately result in lower total infamy for you. But it's not just about the puppeting. You do get other bonuses, and this one's outrageously good. The interest rate means that you can use debt way more effectively. It's exactly the interest rate difference, which makes me sort of hesitant to want to pick up a lot of debt initially as like Qing or as Japan, simply because you are going to pay a lot more for it than you would if you were simply recognized. And so, be aware of these modifiers. These are really important modifiers. Great powers get 1,000 extra influence. That means, of course, they can burn off their infamy a little faster, which is good because they are going to get a little more. But that, whatever. Like infamy is very much whatever in this game. At a certain point, the right thing for you to do is to start ignoring the other powers and make them respond to you being a big problem. The only issue with great power, of course, is that although they have more influence, they also pay more for diplo pacts. So you really can't afford to have tons and tons of allies as a great power. That's okay. You're mostly going to be playing on your own anyway. The other cascading things, of course, like it's easier for you to expand as a smaller power because people aren't going to care as much if you're conquering things. And I think that's a really helpful and neat way to describe stuff in the game. So prestige, you can get it, as I mentioned, from specializing in specific products. Just find products that you think that you've got the special niche on, and if you really are unsure like which resources you can specialize in, it's okay to like look at what you're currently good at, and specialize there if you think you can overtake someone, right? We can see here as Sweden that we actually aren't even getting any from anything here. Yeah, so here in the market we can see basically what we're getting close to being able to get prestige on by just going through and seeing, oh, we're number 6 producer of fish. Cool. We are probably like the number 9 producer of iron. So like be aware of what you currently are doing well with. And then if you think you can overtake someone by specializing in it and therefore get extra prestige, like go for it. It's not a bad thing. But yeah, prestige, it's a I think a very handy metric, just a good little shorthand for describing the current strength of your country in comparison to everybody else. And the game kind of does the same thing by just assigning you country rank based off of prestige and recognition status and not. So yeah, that's it. That's prestige. I think prestige and country rank are incredibly important things. And so I was happy to do a little refresher video. Hopefully this was helpful for you. All right, take care.